Welcome you all to this short lecture on creating and using rubrics for assessment. Right. So I'm Ramesh Kannan, and I'll be instructing about rubrics, and also I'll be demonstrating some of the rubrics that we have used in our regular classes and so on. Right. So without further ado, let's get started. Before we get into the presentation, like I normally give this quote from Marcus Vitruvius Polio. It is just like when somebody is more practical in addition to the theoretically sound concept, then he is kind of a pretty much a bigger person or well experienced or knowledgeable person. Likewise, like today's lecture will be looking into rubrics in terms of theoretical point of view, as well as how you can use it for your regular classroom teachings and so on. Right. Right, so this is the outline of today's presentation. I'll be looking into the introduction to rubrics and definition and scope and types of rubrics, and followed by the applications of rubrics. I hope many of you are from different streams like chemistry, mathematics, science, including biology and zoology and other allied engineering and other disciplines. Right, so I'll make the presentation very simple and can be useful to all the streams. Probably with a simple modification, you can make it for your own courses. And there is no definite standard rubrics templates. It's all about how you create it for your own lectures and how do you want the assessment to be. Right, so based on that, you can probably create your own templates. So I'll give you a basic overview and then I'll demonstrate a few examples. And finally, I'll just present my thoughts on rubrics and its implications in my regular, assessment and so on. So introduction to rubrics. So whenever I first, describe rubrics or say the term rubric, many people have different things in their mind. For example, the spelling for rubrics is RUBRCS. And then the first thing they strike most of them's mind or people who have not much aware about this rubrics is the Rubik cube. So this is the probably the first notion everybody gets when I talked about rubrics or Rubik's cube. But this is not actually rubrics. What we discuss in this lecture, it is some other different concept. And also the spelling for rubrics, generally people stress it to RUBRIK, rubric, as something like this, which is actually a company in USA called Rubric, which predominantly do cloud data management, data security, and this is also known. So rubrics is this, which is RUBRICS, and which is actually an evaluation or a grading methodology. It is in fact called as a tool or guide or scoring sheet. In America, they call this as a scoring sheet, and this is actually a mechanism to assess the students' project or students' work, something like that. So we'll be discussing about this in this particular short lecture, and understand the spelling is RUBRICS, and this is rubrics. Right. So this is a definition that I generally give. Normally, our assessments are quantitative. The reason is that we have to give some grades to the student, and then students gets a grade, and then if they're short of the class average, or if, for example, if it is a 10 marks and if the student scores 5, it'll be happy, right? So half the mark of the question I've scored. If the student scores less than 5, then he needs to really work on in the subsequent exams, and probably a person who can see 10 pointers, like 9 pointers, they'll be in the round of 9 marks and 10 marks or something like that, right? So we give them in a quantitative scale, right? So but what happens if it is a 7 marks and 8 marks? What is the difference that makes in the student's mind? So that's actually a bigger question, right? So there isn't any predefined things that a student gets 7 marks out of 10 marks, or 9 marks out of 10, or 8 marks out of 10, or even 7.5 out of 10. So that kind of metrics which we need to give student is what we call a rubric in a plain sense. But it's actually a qualitative metrics. In fact, we are converting the qualitative index to a quantitative stuff. Like for example, quality index is like excellent. So we correlate that excellent to people who score more than 9 for a 10-mark question. And then like we call, neutral or average. So people who score around 5 or 5.5 and so on. But less than 5, we generally call them, most of the teachers will make them like poor or very poor. So which makes the students to demotivate. So it will create them, an aversion towards that particular course, in fact. And then they even subsequently, they don't perform really well. So rubrics will make that things clear. So in that case, in a rubrics, we don't have a term called poor, but in terms we have the other alternative name called need improvement. So that's a polished term, but in fact, need improvement will motivate the student to really work hard so that the next time they don't get that particular levels, but they try to improve upon. So that's the basic logic of rubrics. It is basically qualitative metrics gets quantified. So that's a plain sense. And more important thing is the constructive feedbacks. Normally, as I told you, 7 marks out of 10 or 9 marks out of 10 is just like in a numerical scale. But what is that people who get 7 marks, what will be the mechanism to tell them to increase their understanding or increasing their comprehension skill? So that is what we call a constructive feedback, and that can be achieved using rubrics. So I'll demonstrate you a sample rubrics. Then we also construct a rubric for some imaginary assignment or something. So most of you will be like student, or most of you like be a teacher, and you'll be creating your own rubric for your class or something like that. So that will be the last part of my lecture. So this is the first question, right? So before we get into the rubrics, the creation of rubrics, why rubrics is the question, right? So all of you can see the question in the screen. Anybody have any problem? Can someone confirm? All of you can see this question, this particular question. Side, sir, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Right. So this is the first question, right? So we'll start with the basic stuff, like we'll start with the basic, understanding about the question. This is primarily and simple methodology. This is, you might think that I have just pressed too much of my keyboard, so it got dragged to a great sentence, right? So the honest opinion is I've got some 85 letter word. It's a single word from here to here, and I just claim it's a name of a place in New Zealand, right? So the answer I expect is a binary, either 1 or 0, or true or false, or yes or no, right? So many of you will think no or false, and some of you will, by guesswork, they will get it right. So this is actually true. This is actually Guinness Book of Record letters for the longest, place name, right? So it's in New Zealand, named after Tametia. It's actually a legendary explorer, and who have actually explored a lot of places in New Zealand, and they have this big name, right? So will rubrics be applicable to this? The answer is no, because we have a predefined answer. It could be this or this. So whoever gives true, I will mark them. I will allocate the marks based on this question. Like for example, if this is 1 mark, then everybody gets true will get 1 mark, and people who gives false will get 0 marks out of 1, right? So this is pretty much fair. But this is not much complex. Let's take another level. Like this is the question, and I request you to pay attention to this, which is like, who's the current captain for Indian cricket team, right? So remember, I have underlined a word current. All these things are Indian cricket team captains, like KL Rahul, MS Dhoni, then Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma. All of them are Indian cricket team captain. And I've asked who is current captain. The answer is pretty much Rohit Sharma. Right.
Rohit, sir.
So yes, very good. Right. So probably you would have watched the latest match. India won the second T20 against Australia. I think yesterday, 23rd September, by 6 wickets. And probably, if you have no idea of current captain, you can probably see the highlights in Hotstar or in YouTube. So you can find the toss won by Rohit Sharma and something like that. Right. Right. So that's basically a simple question. Do rubrics required for this? Will I need some evaluation mechanism for this? The answer is still no. The reason is that it's obvious, like, so the answer D is obvious. So this particular thing, we may not require any rubrics at all, right? So probably, I think Farooq, Mr. Farooq, be nice.
Sir, excuse me, other staff members, please don't touch your mobile screen, sir, please. That's the answer.
Yeah, okay. Right, so that's how it is basically, right? It also does not require any rubrics. And this particular question, which of the following fractions is smallest? Like 4/6, 6/7, 7/9, and 8/9. And this is a common question for 6th standard CBSE or 7th standard CBSE, where they were introduced to fractions. And will this require rubrics? The answer is still no, because the answer for this particular problem is pretty much a single answer. So wherever we have the single answer, like for example, in this case is this, wherever we have the single answer, probably I can draw, yeah, probably where it is single answer, we don't actually require any rubrics, right? So where do we actually use rubrics? That's a good question. Let's take a look at the next thing, and we'll just erase this for a moment, right? So where exactly we do rubrics? So before that, let me tell you about what are the different types of rubrics. So this is an important question to be answered before we get into the actual implications of rubrics. There are only two types of rubrics, but if you Google it, you will find umpteen numbers of rubrics like checklist rubrics and other development rubrics and so on. But basically it is two types. One is holistic rubrics and then analytic rubrics. Holistic rubrics is generally for humanities, especially the language studies. For example, if somebody wants to do an qualitative analogy of Shakespeare's play, like say Macbeth, then probably how do you evaluate them in the quantitative scale? Like somebody teaches English, they want to give some books, written books by experienced writers, and then you want to get how it is done, what is the mood in which it was written, or what are the different analogy you can take it. Like say for example, school students will be exposed to Robert Brown's Robert Frost's poem. But if you want to do that in a master's level, like MA kind of level, probably you will be looking into the rhyming syllable, and other related stuff. Like how do you actually evaluate it? Like for school students, if they could give them if they could recite the poem or write them without any mistake, then probably people can give marks. But for the analogy, how do you give them? So that is basically the holistic rubric. So we will be dividing that into steps. This is pretty similar to like the keywords or the answer key that you submitted while giving the question paper. So if these are the contents available, the key elements available in the question, then the marks can be given. But it is just like one way. You don't give a feedback that these are not there, so you don't get this mark. So that is basically rubrics, right? So analytic rubrics is what we will be doing in engineering, like if it be it a laboratory course or being it a theory course or a numerical course, we'll be looking into analytic rubrics, when which we convert the qualitative metrics or the criteria into the quantity, right? So we'll give them in terms of numbers. Like for example, excellent, as I told you, it is now 9 and above out of a 10-point scale or something like that, right? So that's basically the analytic rubrics. Right. So this is a structure of rubrics. Kindly pay attention. In a couple of minutes later, we'll be creating a rubrics from the scratch. The structure of a rubric is like we have the row-wise element and column-wise element. Generally, the row-wise elements are called criteria, and some people they also call this as a description. Like for example, like humanities, as I told you, it may not be a criteria. Like in the engineering sector, we call laboratory aim, objective, scope, and all can be criteria. But in the language studies, people call that to be a description. Like if you have this description, I told you the rhyming syllable, and then different words, consideration, and meaning. For example, a poem, Road Not Taken. Like so, people at the MA level, they try to understand the writer's mindset, and then why the poet would have written the road not taken, and what is the implications in that poem. Like if one path was taken, it talks about the other paths and what will be. Just like in a the Tamil, they always say that the other side of the shore is always green, right? As simple as that, right? So that's kind of an analogy. We also, our writers do have the same emotions and something like that. So those can be put under criteria description. For chemistry teachers and mathematics teachers, like the step marks, generally they provide step marks in examination, right? So the step marks you can divide for this particular step and intermediate step and final step. So funny incidents may happen for mathematics teachers. Like for example, if they want to evaluate, LHS equal to RHS type of questions, student will write the question, they reproduce the question itself and then do some calculations, especially the trigonometric identities. They probably mess up in between and they felt that the final answer may not be equivalent. Then they try to write the question itself and then they say LHS to RHS, right? But it'll be painstaking if the number of students is 60, 70, and so on. Individual attention and will be very difficult. But if you have a rubric set, and you can probably check them, like you have the intermediate check. It's just like a programming program given to a computer to perform tasks. It is the program given to you while evaluating. It's as simple as that, right? And scales or points. And there isn't any definite rule that you should have only 5-point scale or 10-point scale or something like that. But when you make a scale to be longer, then it'll be very difficult for the teacher to correct it. Because, for example, scales like, for example, if I have a 5 scale, 0 being absent, 1 being needs improvement, and so on, 5 being excellent, then they need to have, like, if we have a 5 criterias, then you will have like 25 to 30, the boxes. You have to fill these boxes, and your corresponding marks represents that criterion, and that has to be given to the student. Like, so we'll demonstrate that. So it'll be easy if you understand that, the scale, right? So I'll be taking a look at one of the important, variations in rubrics, which is the analytical rubrics. So I'll just share an Excel sheet so you can follow with me. It'll be better. Yeah, is my Excel sheet visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So today's lecture, I'll be telling you, I'll be creating a rubrics for you for a sample course or assignment. Say, for example, I have asked my students to develop a floor plan of a house, like a residential building. Floor plan is a layout diagram for a house, right? So I give them the task is like given a floor plan for a small residential building for a 5 people. Like, so first I have to be really well versed about the assignments that I give. So first I need to look into the criteria, or you can even call this description, right? Then scales, right? Let's take a look at 5-point scale, which is very simple to demonstrate. Probably you can increase it much higher also, or we'll take some 4-point scale, which is also pretty easy. right? So it's all about number of scales. Like you took this box, this box, this box, and this box. That would be number of scales. Like say for example 0, pretty much the lower scale. So then I give them 1 and 2 and 3. So this is a 4-point scale. So what I have made it like I made a 4-point scale, right? So I made them 4-point scale. Right. Now I need to really give the weightage of the question. So we can have the total marks to be 10 for this exercise, or I can give 15 or whatever it might be. So I'll just give 10 marks. So maximum marks a person student scores if he gets this particular thing. So let me take a look at 5 criteria for this example. First is concept wise, if they get um, everything correct, then the scales are. Then I talk about drawings. So the first thing, important thing in a floor plan assignment is the drawing. The reproduction of the drawing should be very good. So that's very important. The next is the very important novel. Whether they have copied from internet or whether they take it from some online source, that is called novelty or novel. We'll just give novel. Third one, probably you can give more like the tools they use, which is very good, or something like how many we have, 4. And the final one is time, which is the submission time, whether they submit it without delay or submit, right? So they do it with time or something. Sometimes you just say in a class that people who ever submitted early, they give bonus marks, might be some appreciation kind of thing. And if they submit it late, you can impose penalty and something like that, right? So that's the important thing. Then this will be like a table. Let me freeze this so I don't have to run through it. This is a weightage. So the total mark is 10 and I have got 5 criterions. Like I'll make these things bold so that differentiates these things from the rest of the thing, right? So I've got the scales ready, the weightage ready. Now the individual boxes, right? So what are these boxes, right? So this is our actual work, right? Something like that. And the weightage per thing is 2. You can increase the weightage also. For example, you can time submissions you can give 1, provided you want to increase the marks. So the total is 10. So this is how, for example, if a student scores 8 out of 10, then you probably know like in which portion they went wrong. So let me describe this. Don't worry about that. Like we'll make it a little bigger also, so we can typeset huge quantum stuff, right? So all right, so on concept stage, so no or generally in India we just put all the absence as 0, right? So they have not given or they fail to submit. So instead of absent, you can call them as fail to submit, something like that. So that is 0. Generally, it'll be nice if you don't give them 0, right? Something like that. Then this is probably the first concept. They are pretty much like needs further improvement. I'm just for this lecture, I'm just giving you basic stuff. You can further describe in detail also. Then excellent work. So this is one such thing. And can do much better. this is the generic thing. For drawings, I'll just give you some elaborate details. Like for example, if I ask them to submit in, let me uh, make it oriented so you'll understand much better. Right. So if I ask them to submit it in AutoCAD, then I just put fail to submit .dwg file. So it's extension. So in that case, it is 0. And some of the AutoCAD commands was not present. So in that case, they get a 1 rate skip. And then detailed diagram, but lacks few elements such as components like bathroom, and generally students will forget some in when I say a floor plan, the layout diagram, they generally forget about the sump and something like that. So that can be added so that they get much better, something like that. And then finally, all they call presets in drawing. Presets or components or present. So I'm just giving secondary level. You see this, I've just given thing which is a generic thing. Then I've got some more concepts, and you can even pretty much elaborate depending upon it. Something like for novelty, you can even write copied from internet source, originality in submission, something like this. Might people who really get high grade in novelty, they'll be really pretty much happy because you acknowledge them for their hard work. Normally we only give marks, but we don't acknowledge them based on their involvement or something. So next time when you first time you corrected using rubrics and they got originality in submission, they really get motivated. Next time they'll even do a much better job. So it's just kind of a thing. And copied from internet, so they get a fear like a student, the faculty could able to catch them. So they might think that they outsmart teacher, but they get and then sometimes like this is I can call partially copied from internet. You can even put full copy to 0. Right. So in one case, I've just caught 2 students. It is not copied from internet, but 2 students have copied peer-to-peer copy. So I marked them 0 for both, and they came and apologized individually. And one claimed that I did, and the other girl have copied, and so on. But the problem is that you cannot really find out the originality of the submission. So in that case, you give them both a 0. Initially, I was giving them the average mark, but then later on thought they don't deserve when they copy, so they get 0. And that incident really triggered not only them, but the entire class. And afterwards, there isn't any copying till now, right? So it will create some, the mental block to the malpracticing students, so they don't really do it. So it is as simple as they're not submitting it. So when you mark them 0, like in this case in rubrics, and they know why I have marked them 0, because they know this particular thing will be sent to them along with the grading. So that's how it is done. And then it is pretty much evident that they get copied or something. They can come with an argument stating that if you just refer internet or something, but during your submission, you tell them internet submissions is on not. So we have to give them a good requirement so that like this rubrics does it in the backend pretty well, and something like that. And partially copied and something like if you're not pretty if you have a suspicion but not pretty sure that it is from internet source, seems like someone's work, but appreciable or something like that. Like, so if you're also not pretty much sure, you don't have to penalize for your suspicion, but you can give them this particular thing. But originality and submission should be 100% original, so you should be very sure that it is not there. But sometimes internet, there are a lot of data, there could be hundreds and hundreds of websites, we can't go and check every website, but you feel that as a teacher, it's an experience, will understand that this work would have been done by this guy or something. So that's how it is originality submission. So as simple as that, you can pretty much in something like timeline. Generally, I follow two timelines. One is called hard deadline, and it's called soft deadline. Hard deadline is actually the deadline. Say, for example, if I give a task today, I give 1 month time. So 24th October 2022. So that's an actual submission, but they can submit it till 29/10/2022. Right? Normally, people will come a complaint that I'm not well and something like that, but you give them the soft deadline. But what is beyond that? Beyond that, even if it is 30, it is 0 mark. But what is a maximum grading for this is, for example, for 10 marks question, so you will grade out of 10. But any one day, for example, even it is 25 or 29, it will be graded only for 5 marks. And anything more than that, it is 0. So this is how you give. And you can mark them in rubrics also, like submitted before the due deadline, and then 5 marks. I told you, we can put it here, soft deadline, and you can even create it one more. Like sometimes there could be genuine reason. You should understand that also. But that will be a trivial. We cannot do an investigation on their personal life, but you can put at least 1/3 of this mark. But fail to submit and absenteeism will always get 0. So this is how you generally do rubrics, and this basic of what rubrics is like. Now the point is, we have a scale. How do we convert that into point? Right. So for example, the total mark is 2 and the scale is 1. So this is actually 1. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 scale, right? So this you can pretty well take it as 0, whatever might be that 0. And this is, we can call this, can convert that into 3. So this will be 1 divided by 3, right? And this will be 2 divided by 3. And this will be 3 divided by 3. So this is a factor. I'm just telling you the factor. Now the marks. So this into this will be the mark for this particular weightage. I beg your pardon. It's a weightage. Say for example, 2, or I'll just put like for this question into 2, that is 0. This into 2, and you can call this into 2, and you can call this into 2, right? Something like that. So if they get everything in an excellent, they get 2% weightage. It's not marks, it's weightage, and they get everything this way, and this way. This let me explain you so I don't have to confuse you. So this is the actual weightage map to it, and let me put all 2 marks so that will be easy for us to really understand. Let me run through this. This is C4 into H4. All right, so let me run this also. Scale, right? So it's fairly the same. Like we got the values map. Say for example, if a student is needs an improvement, so I will mark them this one. Let me show you the other color. So this one. And for this criteria, drawing criteria, he just say some details are there, but few are only missing. So this marks, and then this thing seems to be original submission. Let me run this. And then for this, both the criteria, this one. So this, right? So now I will give them this plus this plus this plus this plus this. So this is his mark out of 10. You can round up to 7. 7 out of 10. So his mark will be 7. I beg your pardon. 7 out of 10. This mark is 7 out of 10. Right? So this is what we generally do, in a numerical scale. But what this rubrics does is that while giving this mark, we will be saying that you can do much better. And I mean, this needs improvement. And we will be sending it this with the criteria. So next time, they'll be very happy with the originality of the submission, but they need to really look into the time they submitted. This is the time, no? So the final concept is the time in which they submitted, right? So they could next time do it before the deadline. So what happens if they do it before the deadline? So instead of this M7, probably I would get N7, and that will be 7, and I can even call 7.5 or something like so, nearest decimal. So that can accelerate their grading. So now they understand the marks 7 and 7.5 have a meaning because this criteria get changed. So this is the advantage of having a rubrics, right? So this is simple rubrics. I don't know, many of you have different streams. Probably you can look into your own perspective and you can generate the own rubrics for your course selection. But some feel that it will be a laborious task. But once you practice this, you can avoid a lot of problems. Like there are some teachers with a complaint stating that carpal tunnel syndrome, which means that the hand become numb. They correct so many papers, and finally they give it to students in the class, and then they come and ask like why this marks were not given here or something. But if you give this rubrics also before and after you correct the papers, so they can themselves find what's wrong or something. So if you have a 60 students, like 30 of them turning back with the queries of what is this and that, and if you give rubrics, probably 1 or 2 will turn, like, so they have a genuine reasons to ask. Otherwise, like number of reworks can be minimum. So the time is, if you allocate time for rubrics in the initial, you might save time during the class hours. Or if you want to have a conventional, then you will be compromising the initial time, but finally during a class you may not have time to answer a lot of questions. And you can probably give this to parents also during a parents teachers meeting. They can even find out where their son or what is making a mistake. Then they can, if they can correct them in home, that will be a double advantage of rubrics, something like that. So I'll go back to my presentation. And here it is, like this is what we have stopped. And this is what I told you, the structure of rubrics. I don't want to give you a lot of PPTs with the rubrics and criteria and something. So I just thought of giving you an overview of this particular stuff and something. So the applications of rubrics, this is pretty much an important thing. Probably you can see that it is actually open to all. There isn't much of like I have to explain you. If you are a music teacher, if you are a physical education teacher, or a teacher teaches in a catering institute or hotel management, no matter, you can use rubrics for everything, even to evaluate sports, music, and even dance, like the number of steps they give, like or generally if you can probably see that during Olympics, even in gymnastics, they have judges sitting with the papers, with the grade sheets, and that is one type of a rubric. So because there shouldn't be any commotion from international participants stating that this criteria was not there or something like that, right? So during last Olympics in triple ton, I guess, the gold gets shared by Italy and Saudi Arabia. So that rule book, the referee had checked, and then the first place gets shared and something like that. So that's kind of a golden rule sets of rubrics. So this rubrics that we generally follow, and some this is very generic. Like as I told you, this term poor we need to avoid for a school level, because people will be more sensitive, and maturity level of the students will be very less for school. And you can give them a need improvement and better and excellent or something like that. Like you can see, this particular thing is for a project, final year project of BTech or MTech, and they say articulate the problem identifying objectives and lacks clarity in defining the objective. So this is very important. So when 10 percentage till 25 percentage if they gets here, and then that will get a message to the student that they lack in clarity. In the next review they will be correcting that. And then here it is, problem statement is clear and objectives are well written. So this is just a first review for 5% weightage, and then they have this particular thing. And then like the second review for 40%, which is having the highest weightage, this is the ability to demonstrate the right use of technology, and then technologies can identify objectives, and ability to self-evaluate and learn from mistakes and something like that. So the lean concepts like learning from mistake, and then ability to use basic science and something like that to demonstrate and something like that. Then they have this comparisons, and corresponding marks will be allocated. And then like the parameters, like the final parameters, like ability to use right methodology, results obtained, and then findings to further development to for social studies to solve social issues, not satisfactory in 3 parameters. And this is I think this is poor, fair, good, and excellent, and effective in all defined parameters, something like that. So these are some of the important things that I wanted to share you. As a closing thoughts, I do have some of the experiences with rubrics. Rubrics, as I told you, it will be a time saver if you use it. If you create one rubrics, and if you teach the subject for many years, then this one rubrics will stay the same. Like you don't have to really spend time in editing rubric every semester or every classes, every new batches. So you can probably reuse the rubrics, but initial time spent on the rubrics will be very, very high. And you find someday you have to compromise some holidays to work on your rubrics for the class. But if you once do that, and that will be a much more useful tool, will be a great tool to use it for your regular lectures. And another thing is still, some people, have, um, some people are not aware of technology. For people who are tech savvy and can adopt technology, there are a lot of apps available in Play Store on rubrics. You can use them and you can put it in your phone and something like that. But if you're not good enough in technology, you can still use rubrics. You can take an A4 sheet and you can print the components in Excel, and then you print that Excel sheet, and you can still use it in a hard form. There is absolutely, it both works fairly same and simple. And more importantly, many teachers do have the preconceived notion that what happens if I give the rubrics to the student, they will act, everybody will perform in the excellent level. So will that be a problem? Actually, it is one of the good mechanism. You tell them you are guiding the student to the correct path. Like for example, if you think of horse race, what happens, you think the racing horse is your students, all the horse, if they have the correct dimension, correct parameter, and they score correct, and you see how beautiful that would be. So there's nothing wrong. Like sometimes you might think that the student will fake it or something. It does not make any difference, because if everybody wants to go into correct path, so you'll be more happier, and you'll be really considered to be a good teacher, then there'll be a lot of discrepancies among the grading variations and something like that. So that's my final thoughts regarding rubrics. I'm happy to take questions if you have any. So I hope I've given you a clear insights on rubrics. If you have any questions, you can probably ask me. I'll stop share the presentation. And thank you for the opportunity. Like, so I hope you